I was scouted on the street by a talent scout and sent overseas for training. But as soon as I landed, my passport was snatched, and I was locked in a cage. The thugs said that anyone who didn't obey orders at Nexus Corp was dead meat. If I remembered correctly, Nexus Corp was the name of my fiancé's company overseas. If you want to live, change your clothes and come out for training. I woke from unconsciousness, my head throbbing. Seeing me dazed, the burly men in front of me burst into laughter. Another one scared senseless. Don't even think about running. For disobedient women here, there's only one way out, death. Was I kidnapped and trafficked? I had to find a way to escape. I swallowed stiffly, bending down as if to pick up clothes. While they weren't paying attention, I grabbed a piece of rebar nearby and swung it hard at the head of the man in charge. The lead thug was completely unprepared. I landed a direct hit, and he crumpled to the ground. The others immediately stirred, rushing forward to check his injuries. I took off running, yanking the handle. But only then did I realize the only door was locked from the outside. Panicked, I kicked at it. Seeing the handle loosen slightly, I kicked desperately, putting my whole body into it. Just then, my scalp burned with pain, and the world spun. When I registered what was happening, I'd been slammed hard onto the floor. A leather-shoed foot kicked my head without hesitation, followed by countless fists and kicks. My entire body ached. I screamed while trying to shield my head. Amidst the noise, I heard someone shout, "At Nexus Corp, we have plenty of ways to deal with disobedient women like you. You dared hit our boss? You're dead today." I froze as if struck by lightning, shocked into forgetting resistance. Nexus Corp? My name is Sophia, and my fiancé is Robert Davidson. And the name of his company overseas is Nexus Corp. Had I been kidnapped and taken to my fiancé's company? Gathering all my strength, I screamed, "Stop! Is your boss Robert Davidson? I'm his fiancé. I need to see Robert Davidson." Robert Davidson was usually unapproachable, but he loved me to the core, practically obsessed with me. Now that I was carrying his child, he would go insane if he saw me like this. Hearing this, the men's faces changed dramatically, and they quickly stopped. Even us overseas have heard about Mr. Davidson spoiling his fiancée. "Tell us, what's your name?" Too hurt to stand, I lay on the floor and managed to continue, "My name is Sophia. Your company's name comes from Robert Davidson and my name combined. If you don't believe me, check my passport and ID card. I have photos together on my phone. I have proof." The men exchanged glances. The leader, clutching the wound on his head, glared at me with hatred. "Your passport and ID card were destroyed long ago. I'll go get the phones now. You'd better not be lying, or you'll be dog food." I nodded frantically, letting the men lift me and carry me to another room to wait. Soon after, the man came back with a stack of phones and dumped them onto the table in front of me. "Which one is yours? Pick it out." I scanned them one by one, my heart sinking. "Mine isn't here." "Are you sure all the collected phones are here?" The man watched me coldly, a cruel smile suddenly curving his lips. Then he reached over the table and slapped me, knocking me to the ground. "I thought you actually had some tricks up your sleeve. Turns out you're just a fool who heard stories about our boss. Did you really think such a cheap trick would fool me, old man? Damn it, if I don't beat you to death today, I'm useless." He was deliberately retaliating for what happened earlier, hitting me with brutal force. When his fist slammed into me, my left eye instantly went blind. I cried out repeatedly, my heart filled with doubt. I'd heard these organizations had standard procedures. Why was only my phone missing? More importantly, robe. R.T. Davidson was always clean in his dealings and gentle with people. How could he suddenly transform and get into this kind of dirty business overseas? I was frantic. Just as I opened my mouth, I took 2 more slaps. He wouldn't give me a chance to explain. I had a dreadful feeling I might actually die here today. The other thugs in the room saw my pathetic state and hesitated, stopping their leader. Boss, she instantly knew where our company name came from. She must know something. Even if she's not really Sophia, she might be someone the real Miss Davidson knows. Maybe we should question her first. If we upset that person, none of us will get off easy. The man gasped for breath and spat on me. I'd rather just beat trash like this to a pulp and feed her to the dogs. The real Miss Davidson is Mr. Davidson's sweetheart. How could any of his men possibly trick her into coming here? My insides felt shattered. When I tried to speak, I coughed up blood. Contact the women who tricked me into coming here. They saw my passport, they know my name. Or give me a working phone, I'll call Robert Davidson and have him come see you. The men exchanged glances and muttered, what if she really is Sophia? We'd be dead. We can't let her contact Mr. Davidson. Go find the women who tricked her into coming here. We'll ask them what's going on. Someone immediately ran off. Before long, the woman who'd coaxed me into the overseas training arrived, walking gracefully. Seeing my bloody, miserable state, she gasped and covered her mouth. Didn't I tell you to be obedient when you arrived? Look at you, how did you get into such a state? I struggled to lift my head, straining to see with my one good eye. You brought me here, you saw my identification. You know I'm Sophia, tell them. I'm Mr. Davidson's fiancée, tell Robert Davidson to come see me. Seeing me crawl towards her, the woman shrieked and backed away, afraid of getting blood on herself. You're Sophia? Don. Be ridiculous. Mr. Davidson's girlfriend lives in luxury every day. Why would she be wandering the streets getting tricked by us? Guys, don't listen to her nonsense. This woman is clearly just trying to buy time. I froze as if cold water had been thrown on me. This was all wrong. She had seen my passport and confirmed my name herself. How could she possibly forget it in an instant? This wasn't a simple kidnapping. There had to be something more going on. I had been set up. The sudden talent scout, the vanished passport, the missing phone, the woman lying through her teeth and refusing to admit my identity. The person behind this wanted me to die quietly overseas. Cold sweat instantly soaked my body, and the wounds on me stung and itched. The men politely escorted the woman away, then formed a circle, trapping me in the center. Any more excuses? No more, huh? Ha, impersonating our boss's fiancé? Where did you get the guts? I gathered my last ounce of strength, staggering to my feet to rush out. A gust of wind whistled behind me, followed by a sharp crack. My legs collapsed uncontrollably. My lower legs had been brutally broken with a baseball bat. The pain made my vision darken, and I couldn't stop spinning. But the physical agony kept me from closing my eyes. My scalp tightened. I knew I was being lifted by my hair again. The men laughed as they looked at my pathetic state, discussing whether to throw me into the meat grinder. My heart plummeted, plunging into unprecedented despair. Just then, a voice came from not far away. What are you doing? Who is this? How did she get so injured? The voice was surprisingly familiar. I strained to squint with my right eye, breathing heavily as I looked towards the sound. When I saw who it was, tears streamed down my face. It was Mike, Robert Davidson's driver. He had driven me countless times. He knew me. I lifted my blood-soaked arm, waving it frantically at Mike. It's Sophia. Mike, where is Robert Davids? On hearing my name, Mike stepped forward, his expression serious. Seeing this, the thugs were terrified and immediately released their hold on me. My legs were broken, and I was beaten to a pulp, but a spark of hope ignited in my heart. Mike, it's me. Get me out. The pain was excruciating. I could only manage those few words before my whole body began to tremble uncontrollably. Mike's eyes widened. He leaned closer for a look, then covered his nose. Go easy on her. Don't kill her. It'll be hard to explain to Mr. Davidson. My eyes widened in shock. Only then did I realize I was so battered and bruised, I barely looked human. I fumbled desperately on my body, trying to find something to prove my identity. But Mike frowned, recoiled, and told the men disdainfully, if you kill her this time, no one will cover for you. If Mr. Davidson finds out, watch your miserable lives. The men immediately bowed and agreed, their faces fawning as they watched Mike leave. I looked at his retreating back, my heart filled with despair. I wanted to call out to him, but when I opened my mouth, I only coughed up blood clots. It was over. Today would surely be my death. I closed my eyes in despair, tears streaming down my cheeks. Seeing my tears, the leader grabbed my face and looked me over. Then, unbelievably, he began to unbuckle his belt. Even with broken legs, she's not bad looking. She won't make it to the auction block like this, so why don't we guys have some fun first? Hearing their laughter, I coughed up more blood before I could manage to speak. Get away from me. I'm carrying Robert Davidson's child. If he finds out, he will kill you all. As I spoke, I used my hands to drag myself towards the window. Even if I died here today, I would not suffer this humiliation. Seeing I still had strength to struggle, they seemed to decide to play cat and mouse. They stopped attacking, instead following me step by step. Go on, run. We'd love to see how far a cripple like you can get. I bit my tongue to stay conscious, leaving a long trail of blood behind me. Then, to the sound of their taunts, I clutched the windowsill and pushed my upper body out. I was so close to escaping, but I was completely powerless. No matter how hard I gritted my teeth, I couldn't pull myself through. For the first time, I understood that even seeking death could be a struggle. The men had laughed enough. They came forward and grabbed me. I desperately dug my fingers into a protrusion on the window. As I struggled, the custom-made silver pendant Robert Davidson had made for me slipped from my grasp. Half my hair felt like it was torn out, but they finally dragged me back inside. Furious, they kicked me in the face. Damn it! Mr. Sterling just told us not to kill anyone, and you bitch try to jump out the window? You're asking for trouble, aren't you? Since you're trying to kill yourself, don't blame us for being ruthless. They grabbed the remaining hair I had, dragged me across the floor leaving a trail of blood, and threw me with a crash into a dark room. A foot stomped down hard on my face, pressing with increasing force. I felt like my eye was going to be squeezed out of its socket. Just then, there was a sudden commotion outside. Then I heard Robert Davidson's furious voice. Where did this pendant come from? Why is there blood in the room? Where is she? What are you doing? The pressure on my face instantly released. In the darkness, I heard the men talking in a panic. Damn it! It's Mr. Davidson. Why is he here now? What pendant? Damn it! What do we do? That bitch's pendant fell off her neck just before she tried to jump. It's over. Could she have been telling the truth? We're finished, completely finished. If that really is Sophia, and we tortured her like this, none of us are getting out of this alive. Stop talking nonsense. We're already in deep. Hide this bitch first and see what Mr. Davidson does. The men's voices were trembly. One tore a piece of my clothing and stuffed it in my mouth. Another brutally broke both my arms. The pain of my broken bones made me tremble uncontrollably, but the others held my body down together. Even though I was dying from the pain, I couldn't make a sound. They bent me into an impossible shape, then lifted a floorboard in the corner and threw me directly into the cramped space underneath. The pain was too much. Large drops of sweat dripped into my eyes. The agony throughout my body stimulated me, making me unusually clear-headed. I couldn't sleep. I had to hold on. Robert Davidson was here. He would definitely save me. I closed my eyes and listened intently. I heard the men's fawning voices. Mr. Davidson, what brings you here so suddenly? We weren't prepared. Just came for an inspection. I'm asking you, where did this pendant come from? How did it fall from upstairs right in front of me? This. I bought it from a market. We were just messing around and it accidentally fell. A market? Messing around? Ha! A table slammed, and Robert Davidson's voice came, filled with furious rage. Open your damn eyes and look. I carved this myself and gave it to my fiancée. It's the only one in the world. She treasures this pendant. She never takes it off. I just saw the notification that her plane took off, and the landing site is right here. I'm asking you, where is she? We haven't seen her. Robert Davidson fell silent. Listening to the prolonged silence outside, I pressed my shoulder blades against the floorboard and desperately slammed my head against it. What was that noise? Mr. Davidson, it's some new recruits. We're just teaching them the rules. If you don't believe us, come take a look. Afraid Robert Davidson would be fooled, I hit the floorboard even harder. Finally, after the sound of hurried footsteps, I heard the door being pushed open. Mr. Davidson, there's really nothing here. See, it's empty. Robert Davidson didn't peek. I pressed my ear tightly against the wood below. Confirming he had entered the room, I used all my strength to slam against the floorboard again. Hearing the repeated thuds, the man answering him spoke with a tremble. Mr. Davidson, we have a rat problem in here. Please don't stay long, you might get your shoes dirty. Robert Davidson still said nothing. After a suffocating silence, I finally heard his voice again. Someone, tie these men up. Immediately, the floorboard was violently ripped open. Robert Davidson and I met eyes, and I could no longer hold on, blacking out. When I woke, everything around me was stark white. My entire body ached so badly I could barely breathe. Just turning my head slightly sent tears rolling down my face. Robert Davidson, who was keeping vigil by my side, gasped and looked at me with deep sorrow. Sophia, you're awake. As he spoke, he slid uncontrollably from the chair, kneeling half-collapsed by my bed, gripping my hand tightly. I'm so sorry. I didn't know this would happen. Sophia, just focus on recovering. I've tied up those animals. If you hadn't woken up, they all would have paid with their lives for yours. My throat was incredibly dry. After several attempts, I managed to whisper, this wasn't simple. Someone is targeting me. Hearing my voice, Robert Davidson trembled with grief, tears streaming down his face. I'm already investigating, Sophia. Our baby. I tried to move my arm to touch my stomach. But when I moved, I discovered both my arms were in casts, and my legs too. The pain and hatred from being beaten by the men surged through me. I looked seriously into Robert Davidson's eyes. "There's a mole in your company. They want to kill me. Avenge me, Robert Davidson." Robert Davidson was always gentle, never showing his emotions, but now he was curled up, weeping, only able to nod heavily while holding my hand. "It's my fault for poor management. I've always run legitimate businesses. I should ha." V realized the ruthless ambition of these animals sooner. He kept talking, slapping himself repeatedly. "Sophia, I know you're hurting. I'll bring the men who did this to you right now." He gave an order outside, and immediately someone pushed the burly thugs, forcing them to their knees before my bed. Robert Davidson adjusted my pain medication pump and helped me sit up weakly. "Sophia, look closely. Were these the ones who attacked you?" My injured left eye was bandaged, leaving only my right. I scanned the faces of the men one by one. The men who had just recently beaten and cursed me, threatening to throw me into a meat grinder to feed the dogs, were now trembling like leaves. The one on the far left, caught by my gaze, actually peed his pants out of fear. "Miss Davidson, we didn't know who you were, but we were tricked. We had no idea it was you," he confessed, begging on his knees. Watching their pathetic state, I pursed my lips. Meaning, if it wasn't me, it would have been okay to treat someone like this? "Robert Davidson, I recall you saying your businesses are all clean." The man realized he'd said the wrong thing and trembled, begging desperately without stopping. Soon, his forehead was bleeding, but he seemed not to feel it, repeating numbly, "Please, Miss Davidson, spare us this time. We'll change our ways, we promise. We were tricked. They set us up together. We didn't know anything." Robert Davidson looked at me. I shook my head at him. "Do to them what they did to me." Hearing my unequivocal tone, Robert Davidson's aura intensified. He immediately looked at the thugs guarding the door. "Do it." The thugs stepped forward as ordered. I quickly stopped them in a low voice. "One by one. I want them to see with their own eyes what's going to happen to them today." Robert Davidson reached out and gently stroked my hair. The men were still begging for mercy, but he ignored them. "All right, I'll help you lie down to watch. Be careful not to strike. And yourself." Following my instructions, the thugs started with the leader who had first attacked me. First, they used a baseball bat to break his legs, then they held him down and broke his arms, and finally, they brutally crushed one eye. The arrogant leader's screams were deafening. Robert Davidson thoughtfully covered his mouth. He was tortured for only a short while before the agony made him pass out. The thugs brought a bucket of ice water and poured it over him, forcing him back to consciousness. The other men were so terrified they soiled themselves, begging desperately for forgiveness. But when they enjoyed torturing others, they never showed mercy, no matter how much people pleaded. By the end, one of them couldn't take it anymore. He went completely insane from terror, shattered the hospital room window, and jumped to his death. I happened to be tired of watching, so I closed my eyes slightly and fell asleep again. When I woke up the second time, the women who had lured me there had also been caught. I wasn't in a hurry to torture them. What I wanted to know more right now was, who hated me so much that they would set this trap and arrange for me to die at Robert Davidson's company? Under my relentless questioning, the woman cried hysterically but kept shaking her head, saying she didn't know. I didn't believe her. After I had 3 of her fingers severed, she finally screamed and pulled out the transaction records from that time. It was an overseas account. It only detailed my movements, potential locations, and explicitly instructed them to dispose of my phone and destroy my identification. I studied their exchange and fell into deep thought. I didn't know who the person was, but I was certain they knew me well. They knew I was Robert Davidson's fiancée, that I'd always dreamed of being a model, and they knew my whereabouts. Also, they were adept at using overseas accounts and had significant funds to bribe these people. Furthermore, they knew most things about Robert Davidson, including that his subordinates were involved in illegal activities. But while they knew all this, they weren't fully aware of Robert Davidson's actions overseas. This drastically narrowed the list of suspects. In fact, a name surfaced in my mind. Jessica Davidson, Robert Davidson's adopted daughter, Robert Davidson's beloved sister. I looked up in horror, meeting Robert Davidson's eyes. His thin lips parted, and he voiced the suspicion in my heart. "It's Jessica Davidson." I lowered my eyes. Robert Davidson immediately went to investigate. Soon, he returned, his face filled with anger. "That account has been closed." "I'm sorry, Sophia, I couldn't find any concrete evidence." I sighed. Yes, Jessica Davidson was cunning and always covered her tracks. But even so, I would make her pay. I spent a full 3 months recovering overseas before I was barely able to move. Robert Davidson was worried about my health and kept urging me to rest longer. But I didn't want to wait anymore. During this time, Robert Davidson constantly went back and forth between the company and the hospital. He put in immense effort and finally caught the men who were using Nexus Corp for illegal activities. Mike, the driver, was among them. That day, he hadn't failed to recognize me. Not only did he recognize me, he quickly went downstairs and made an excuse to get Robert Davidson to leave quickly. If I hadn't been desperate to die and hadn't accidentally dropped the pendant during the struggle, I would be dead now. Thinking of this, I clenched my fists in hatred. Seeing this, Robert Davidson immediately took my hand and told me Mike's ultimate fate. Listening to the utterly miserable end he met, the knot of anger in my heart slightly loosened. The next day, Robert Davidson and I began our journey home. As soon as the plane landed, Jessica Davidson rushed over, holding a bouquet. Seeing my hair shaved off for treatment, she smiled, her eyes curving. "Sophia, yo. You're so trendy now. This haircut, it's brighter than our light bulbs at home." After saying this, she casually tossed the bouquet onto my lap and moved behind me, naturally reaching for the wheelchair. Just before her hands touched the wheelchair, Robert Davidson extended his arm, blocking her. Then, he threw the flowers from my lap back into Jessica Davidson's face. "Stay away from her." Jessica Davidson's face darkened, but then she spoke sweetly, as if nothing had happened. "Robert, why are you so angry?" "I was just worried about Sophia." Listening to her sickeningly sweet voice, I lowered my eyes slightly. She was testing us. And now that she had seen our attitude, she would surely be on guard. Mr. and Mrs. Davidson had always cherished their adopted daughter as the apple of their eye. Now, without concrete evidence, how could we bring her down? The 3 of us had our own hidden intentions, and none of us spoke for the rest of the journey. Robert Davidson settled me into the Davidson family estate. Grandpa and Grandma Davidson were heartbroken to hear about what happened to me and promised they would take good care of me. After ensuring privacy, Robert Davidson had a long talk with Grandpa and Grandma Davidson late into the night. The next day, several men in black appeared outside my room. They were worried Jessica Davidson held a grudge and would try to harm me again. It was only then that I learned why Jessica Davidson hated me so much. It turned out this adopted daughter, Jessica Davidson, had long harbored illicit feelings for Robert Davidson. She had confessed her love to Robert Davidson, but he had flatly rejected her and then deliberately distanced himself. Robert Davidson only felt brotherly affection for Jessica Davidson, nothing more. He hadn't wanted me to know this, fearing it would make me feel uncomfortable. But no one expected Jessica Davidson to become so consumed by jealousy, driven to madness, and plot my death. I spent a few days resting peacefully with Grandpa and Grandma Davidson. When I saw Robert Davidson again, the worry between his brows had deepened. Sophia, I've investigated Jessica Davidson thoroughly, but I found nothing on her. She's lived with us since she was 6. Mom and Dad lost a daughter before, and they projected all their regret onto Jessica Davidson. Now we hold roughly equal shares in the company. If I make a move against her without clear cause, I'm afraid Mom and Dad won't blame her. They'll think I'm just stirring up trouble. Sophia, I'm afraid you'll have to endure this a bit longer. As he spoke, Robert Davidson rested his head on my lap. I felt a dampness there. I knew it was his tears. After a moment of silence, I gently stroked Robert Davidson's hair, which felt rough against my hand, and said, I do have a plan, but it's a bit risky. Robert Davidson started to shake his head, but I stopped him. Don't say no. I can't wait any longer. The next day, Robert Davidson personally pushed me in my wheelchair to the Davidson family's dinner party. At the banquet, Jessica Davidson flitted through the crowd like a social butterfly, but I could feel her gaze, sharp as knives, constantly fixed on me. As the wine flowed freely, Robert Davidson took the microphone. I'm sure everyone has heard about what happened to my fiancé. Fortunately, I arrived in time, and our baby is safe. To compensate my fiancée, I've decided to transfer all my shares to her. Also, we're moving our wedding date up. It will be in 7 days. A storm of applause immediately erupted throughout the hall. Amidst countless congratulations, I looped my arms around Robert Davidson's neck and kissed him deeply. The cheers from below grew even louder. After the kiss, I scanned the room. As expected, Jessica Davidson was gone. A wicked person like her, who dared to commit murder for a twisted obsession, must already be insane inside. Robert Davidson and I had always been reserved in public, keeping our affection private. This public display of intimacy would surely provoke her to act again. Robert Davidson and I continued to host the guests. Not long after, Jessica Davidson returned to the room, holding a glass of juice. Her eyes were red-rimmed. When she looked at me, her hatred was almost palpable, yet she still wore a sweet smile. Sophia, congratulations. This is juice I specially asked the staff to make for you. Have a taste. I smiled and took it, setting it aside. Seeing this, Robert Davidson picked up the glass, pretending to take a drink. Jessica Davidson's eyes flashed. She suddenly stumbled, intentionally falling onto Robert Davidson and sending the glass of juice crashing to the floor. As if to draw attention, she deliberately fell onto the broken glass, then burst into tears. Sister Sophia, I just wanted to do something for you. Why can't you tolerate me? Tears streamed down her face as she spoke, then she turned and ran out of the hall. Mr. and Mrs. Davidson's faces changed drastically. They glared angrily at Robert Davidson. Look at your fiancé. Go quickly and comfort your sister. If anything happens to her, I'll hold you accountable." After exchanging a look with me, Robert Davidson immediately went after her. As soon as he left the room, someone took hold of my wheelchair and whispered in my ear, "Miss Davidson, Mr. Davidson was worried about you being left here alone to face this. He asked me to take you with him. Don't make a scene. Mr. Davidson is waiting for you outside." I nodded obediently and calmly allowed him to push me out. Just as I exited the hall, a cloth was pressed firmly over my mouth and nose from behind. I didn't have time to react before I fell unconscious. I was woken up by a bucket of cold water. Jessica Davidson sat across from me, playing with a butterfly knife in her hand, her gaze filled with mockery. "Bitch, I know you suspect me. Did you think I'd use a clumsy trick like poisoning? A bitch is a bitch. Ho! Could I possibly poison you in broad daylight and risk everything? You didn't see this coming, did you? What I wanted was to lure you out, and slowly torture you to death." I shook my throbbing head, only to realize my limbs weren't tied. Seeing the shock on my face, Jessica Davidson's expression grew more maniacal. "Surprised? You're the only woman my brother ever brought home. I wanted to properly torture you. Of course, I wouldn't tie you up. What fun would that be, like a dead fish?" I steadied myself and casually reached up to touch my hair. Seeing my movement, Jessica Davidson burst into shrill laughter. "What, you think a tracker could protect you? So naive, Sophia. The moment you blacked out, my people searched you from head to toe. You're not still fantasizing about Robert coming to save you, are you? Dream on. You got lucky last time. This time, no one is coming for you." I sighed, fixing my gaze on Jessica Davidson's eyes. "The overseas incident. It was you after all." Jessica Davidson smirked, her smile full of disdain. "So what? There's no proof. No one can convict me. My only regret is that those idiots only focused on torturing you instead of finishing you off quickly. They didn't even get rid of the bastard in your belly. Sophia, do you know how much I want to kill you?" With that, she lunged, the knife aiming for my face. I rolled away and kicked Jessica Davidson in the abdomen. Her movements were wild and wide open. She clearly didn't expect me to fight back so effectively and stumbled back, staggering. I had never told the Davidson family I knew martial arts. The last time, facing several burly men alone, I hadn't had any chance to resist. So, this was a complete blind spot for Jessica Davidson. She dropped her smile and finally looked at me seriously. I tried to advance, but Jessica Davidson kept backing away, then turned and yelled towards the door, "Are you all blind? Get in here now." Following her command, several tall, muscular men in black filed into the room. They looked at me, cruel smiles on their faces. And I smiled back at them. Jessica Davidson wanted my life. What I wanted was proof of her many crimes, of her colluding with thugs and attempting murder. I wanted both human witnesses and physical evidence. The men, following Jessica Davidson's orders, took fighting stances against me. But before they could even begin, sharp police sirens wailed from downstairs. The windows of the building, which wasn't very tall, flashed with red and blue lights. The men hesitated for a moment, then turned and ran. Jessica Davidson was frantic, yelling at their retreating backs. But the police sirens were too powerful a deterrent. No one was going to listen to Jessica Davidson's orders now. Seeing everyone running away, Jessica Davidson stared at me, then suddenly grinned. "Sophia, you think you've won? You have no evidence to convict me, but I have proof of your crimes. With that, she quickly came forward, shoved the dagger into my hand, and pulled my hand, plunging it into herself. The blade was razor-sharp and instantly pierced through Jessica Davidson's clothes. Clutching her wound and swaying unsteadily, she turned a pained smile towards Mr. and Mrs. Davidson, who were rushing over. "Mom, Dad, don't blame Sophia. She was just agitated and didn't like me." Playing innocent and weak was Jessica Davidson's usual tactic. However, this time, Mr. and Mrs. Davidson didn't embrace her sympathetically as they used to. Instead, they anxiously pulled me away, putting distance between Jessica Davidson and me. Jessica Davidson's eyes widened in shock. She even forgot to fake fainting. "Mom, Dad, what are you doing?" Before Mr. and Mrs. Davidson could speak, Robert Davidson strode up behind them. He looked at Jessica Davidson's wound, scoffed, and pulled out his phone. On the phone screen was a live stream of the events in the building. Jessica Davidson was terrified, her mouth wide open, her face a mask of shock. "Impossible. I searched her. She had nothing on her." "How did you?" She couldn't finish her sentence. I raised my fingers slightly. Before the dinner party, I had gotten a manicure, and the micro camera was hidden in the rhinestone on my nail. The live stream had started the moment Jessica Davidson offered me the juice. Everything Jessica Davidson had done was broadcast live for everyone to see. Soon, the captured thugs confessed the truth. Jessica Davidson had paid them to help, intending to torture me to death. The butler who had pushed me out was also one of Jessica Davidson's accomplices. They were deeply involved, not only in harming me but also in embezzling a significant amount of the Davidson family's assets together. As Jessica Davidson was taken away, the adopted daughter who had thrown her weight around in the Davidson family for over a decade was finally removed from the family records. Mr. and Mrs. Davidson were furious. It took them a long time to accept that the poor, seemingly often bullied adopted daughter they saw had long since blossomed into a deadly flower due to her twisted obsession. After this incident, all of Jessica Davidson's shares were confiscated and transferred to me as compensation. Mr. and Mrs. Davidson were deeply affected. Not long after, they began to hand over power, bringing Robert Davidson into the heart of the Davidson family's authority. As for me, after my recovery, I personally organized my own wedding. As soon as the wedding concluded, Jessica Davidson's final sentence was announced. It turned out all the illegal activities connected to Robert Davidson's overseas business were done by Jessica Davidson. Furthermore, she was found to have committed numerous other heinous acts, including deliberately disfiguring girls who got close to Robert Davidson. For her multiple crimes, Jessica Davidson was sentenced to life imprisonment. Seeing this result, I let out a sigh of satisfaction. I could finally dismiss the bodyguards who had been with me. From now on, no one could harm me anymore.